As I was leaving, the Spirit of God started to arrest me because I said, you know what? She was right. She communicated with me that this is what her experience was. And rather than hear her heart, I decided I was going to put a block up from receiving her heart. I remember getting in the car and every part of my being felt like, what have I done?
You just got to believe. Look ahead and you will see a new beginning.
Hello. Did you know that our ability to believe is already rooted in us? It certainly is. God is such an amazing God and such an amazing creator and strategist that He has already positioned our ability to believe within us. But we also have the choice to either have faith or to doubt what He says. And one of the most effective ways that we've shared before in previous podcasts is that our voice is super important in this entire process. Our ability to believe, we have to believe it in our hearts, think it, process it in our minds, but also speak it using our mouths, because that's the primary way we communicate most times. And I want you to remember that that is what we believe, how we action out, how we move about, that makes a difference in how we live out our lives. And there are so many different intricacies with relation to how we live out our lives on a daily basis that we may think that they're all disconnected. This is one part, communication is one part, the voice is another part, my actions are another part. No, they all come together. And what I'm going to share with you is a particular situation that I experienced with my daughter. And that particular morning, we were on the way to school. What I remember is that on our way down, we got to the school, and normally, if I have any messages coming through, I will leave those until I get to the office to deal with them. On that particular morning, I decided that I parked the car, she was getting her stuff together, and I made the decision to message this person. And she got out of the car, and as we were walking, going to the office, she then said to me, you seemed a little distracted today. No, my daughter is 9 years old. It's fine for her to tell me this at 9 years old because I want her to be able to share her expressions, etc. But on that particular morning, Mommy Kellie was offended. And offense is a whole other part that we will talk about at a different time. But on that particular morning, what she said to me really offended me. And I started to create excuses that, I was, because we were late for school, I was pretty much catching up on some stuff with relation to work and all that kind of stuff. I started making these excuses. And my response to her was not my tone was not a very good tone towards her. And I could see the effect that it had on her. She started to walk ahead a little bit more. We got into the office, we said our goodbyes, etc. And as I was leaving, the Spirit of God started to arrest me because I said, you know what? She was right. She communicated with me that this is what her experience was. And rather than hear her heart, I decided I was going to put a block up from receiving her heart. I remember getting in the car and every part of my being felt like, what have I done? As I was driving from the school, I just wished that I could somehow get back to the school and just correct everything that what I felt just went completely wrong. As I was driving going to the school, I started to speak things over myself that I had to correct immediately. I started to say things like, am I ever going to get this right? And then I said, no. I'm not saying that over myself, no. I will get this right. I started to change my language concerning that situation because I initially started digging myself into a deeper into a hole. And I started to change my language concerning that situation. I said, no, I'm not going to say that over myself. I will get this right. My heart was bleeding to be back to correct that wrong I made that morning. And I came across the street and I was praying and I said, God, that I would just all I could do was to see myself getting back to the school somehow just to make this wrong right. And I drove into the school and I just said, Lord, if I could just get back at the school. And I was believing that it can happen. As I was about to get out of the car, my hand hit something. And when I looked down, my hand had hit her water bottle. And there was my open window. The bottle was there. And immediately I started thinking, I was just so grateful to see that, okay, here's a reason for me to return to the school. Because I didn't want to go back to the school to ask her to come from a classroom to apologize to her, right? But there it was, a space. God opened up that door for me to be able to take the water bottle back to school. Now, I am so super grateful for this opportunity that I am thinking, okay, how can I correct this? And I thought immediately, I was like, okay, I could go into the office. I can make a little note. I can stick it down to the water bottle. So I've gone into the office and I'm writing this note to say, hey, Ray, mom was wrong. You were correct that I was distracted. I'm sorry. And I love you. And I stick it on in a way that I can just look as if it's a part of the water bottle as much as I possibly can without making it a kind, giving a note or anything of that nature. I sat at that table and I just thought, Lord, that if I may just be able to see my daughter, every part of my being wanted and believed that I would have seen my daughter. I got back into the car and everything, drove over to the school. And when I turned into the school, my daughter was walking towards the canteen to purchase a bottle of water. When I turned into the school, she saw me and I saw her. Her expression was like, she couldn't believe that she was seeing her mother turned up. And I was then looking at her like, this is exactly what I prayed to God for and I believed God for. He had already made it possible for me to even have an entry back into the space. But then he said, here, this is how I even want to bless you even more for your faith. I believed him with every fiber of my being. And I drove into the car park. And then she said to me, Mom, you know me so well. I said, Rayna, it is not me that know you so well. It is God that knows us so well, because only God could know that my daughter was in the position at that, based on the time I left her school to get to the office, to figure out the bottle was there to come in. Every single thing just seemed as if time was running on. And by the time I got into there, she was already on her way to purchase a bottle of water. And I was already on the way to return the water to her. And that was an imprint right there to show me things concerning how God shows up for us if we just believe. Sometimes it may take time. Sometimes it might be immediate. But he just wants us to be able to walk in the posture of believing. So today I'm going to ask you that whatever circumstance you're experiencing, take your time to write, to journal. This is why journaling is super important, because then we can trace God's hand. We could look at God's character. We could remember God's promises. Look at that which God has done in your life, that you could say, I remember that situation. Because there are going to be times where we are going to be shaken. There are going to be times where our ability to believe is going to be like, but if you look back at your past and what God has done in your past, you're going to see you're going to see God's hand. It's going to give you encouragement to be able to, God, I believe you. I believe what your word says. I remember when you did that for me. And I will never forget what God did for me that day when I thought I had just messed everything up. And he allowed it to turn around. But beyond it turning around, he began to show us who he is. And God today wants to show you who he is. And just as Jesus said to Jairus, don't be afraid, just believe. Whatever your circumstances today, don't be afraid, just believe. I thank you for being here today. I hope that whatever is shared here today, that it resonates with you in a way that you will start making a different decision with relation to how you think, knowing that you have your heart, you have your mind, and you have your voice, and it is super powerful. Start speaking things over your life, over your circumstances, over your situations, and believe God for it. Because he wants what's best for us. But as we are walking, sometimes we fall, sometimes we stumble. Get up and believe. Get into God's word. Look at what God's word is saying. And just believe. Don't be afraid. As Jesus says in Mark chapter 6, verse 36. Don't be afraid. Just believe.
As the day turns into night and you're by yourself